Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I have the resolve to talk about cards.
This is getting really grim.
It is. It is indeed. But despite that, we're still going to have a fantastic episode today. Isn't that right, David?
Yes,
Maybe
it is.
One of our best yet. Hard to
I
say.
know, it's so crazy. We have the gang's all here. We have Grant joining us. Ted's back in. This is like giving me Gandalf search vibes. So before we get talking about today's card, let's just remind everybody, if you want to, I'll put all the information right over here. If you want to check out the blog, you can at cardtalk2018.com. That's our blog that Matt keeps up to date with all the cards that we talk about here on the pod. And we also have an audio link and a video link. And if you want to get a hold of us by email, you can cardtalk2018@gmail.com. We also have Second Breakfast with Micah building decks, and he goes on our YouTube channel, plays stuff and challenges you guys out there to do stuff. It's pretty crazy. And then lastly, we have a Patreon, so you can join us, and if you find value in what we do, you can help keep the lights on here. Patreon.com/cardtalk2018. So that's the way that works. But enough about that. Let's get into today's card. Grant, what card are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we're jumping back to the core set for the 5-cost leadership event, Grim Resolve. It has action, ready all characters in play. Flavor text: if there is only one way, then I must take it. What comes after must come. Frodo Baggins, The Two Towers.
I almost thought that was when Aragorn was taking the paths of the dead. There's only one way. I gotta take it. But it's not. Well, Ted, what do you think of Grim Resolve?
It's great. Next card.
Grant, what do you think of Grim Resolve?
It's really powerful. It is, for what it does, it's not all too expensive compared to some of the other readying effects that we have out. Early in the card pool, it sees a lot of play, not so much now as the card pool's expanded. It doesn't see a great lot of use, but there could be a call for putting it in some decks.
Yeah, and this card is great. I think that this card is really good. I think this is one of those core set cards that, while isn't in every deck, has found its place in the card pool. And as a core set card, it's still grown with the card pool and is pretty good. So, should we ring this card? No, I'm just kidding. Ted, I'm sure that you want to say more about the card than that. But so go ahead.
Yeah, a couple notes on this card. It's one of those cards that you get more value from. So the cost is fixed, right? It's always 5 resources, but you get more value with it the more characters you ready. So the higher player count you have, the more effective it is, right? Because if I have I got 6 characters out, David, and you got 7 characters out. We were playing a 2-player game. I'd pay 5 to ready those, whatever, like 12, 13 characters. But then if we add Grant and another player, like you're just readying more and more characters. And it's really fun when you're playing multiplayer to just be that person where you just like quest with everything. Just do it. Just send, the tables this. I like it. Just send it. Just where they all can go.
Yeah, just do it. I got you.
That's really fun, and it's also incredibly it's so powerful to just be like, oh, let's commit everything to questing, and then all of your characters are ready for combat. Or you can spend all of your actions it's a quest, and then you handle all of your defenses. And you're like, okay, all of our characters are tapped out. Let's ready everybody and swing back. It's really powerful, even though it's expensive. But it's one of those cards that can just sort of like maybe turn the game around.
Yeah, and I think that's where this card really, I think that's the slot that I would put it in. You know, like Grant said, you're not going to put this in every deck. I think, you know, between Grant and Ted, you guys hit the nail on the head. You know, it may not be very reasonable solo. I don't put it in decks that I build. Everybody out there already knows that I play solo primarily, but this card makes it into my leadership con decks, the decks that I bring to Con of the Rings, and, you know, the decks that I play with my friends, because it's just, you know, you can really just get a lot of value out of it. So 5 cost is not a horrible cost to ready, you know, up to 20, 30 characters, you know, in a 4-player game. It's just like, it's not, you know, 5 costs. People would probably even donate you resources to help you with that. And it's, and the whole point is that this card will help you turn the tide. If you're having a hard time kind of getting ahead, you know, you can, like Ted said, you can quest with everything. You can ready everybody, and then you can clear out any enemies that you may have, because everybody then becomes ready, and like that's just a phenomenal, powerful effect. And there are some people, I think, that didn't like this card at the beginning, but I think that I think that this is a card that has kind of stood the test of time with the core set, that it does very good in, you know, in a lot of different situations. It's not specific to a particular deck. It's not specific to a particular archetype. You know, you get more value multiplayer, but like Ted, like you said, 2-player, you can use it. 3, 4, you definitely, you know, it's just very good. It stood the test of time.
Yeah, and considering the sphere that it's in, even just out of the core set, you have the hero Theodred, right, who his abilities, when he quests, he generates an extra resource, and then Steward of Gondor. And then if you have access to a larger card pool, there's plenty of other heroes that help generate resources. You could even use, to help reduce its cost, if you were playing a Hobbit hero, like Sam Gamgee, you could use a good meal will reduce an event that matches your hero sphere by 2, and that goes on a Hobbit for 0. So there's tons of different ways to generate resources, reduce the cost of this card. And it's kind of like, yeah, if you draw it, you might not, you know, you might actually sit on it for a turn or two to really capitalize on its effect. But it can just, like I said, flip the game around, give you a turn to like really clear through some of the enemies and clear through a location that's been bugging you and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And go ahead, Greg.
One thing I would like to draw a comparison to is the Lure of Moria from Khazad-dûm, where it's 3 leadership resources to ready all dwarf characters. So for 2 less cost, but you've got the added restriction on character.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you know, for 5, how many characters you can actually get, and it's not like it's just not restricted to a particular deck build either. So
exactly, as long as you've got ways to generate those resources or have ways to get it into play. Mm-hmm. Elrond with Vilya, for example, you could Vilya this.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and the other thing is it readies characters that you may have used their ability. It's not just people who are questing. So if you use, you know, before you play this, you use Barivore to draw 2 cards, or if you use Galadriel to lower your threat and draw a card. You know, there's all sorts of, you know, it's not just the people who have quested. It's just everybody who is exhausted gets ready. Everybody gets ready. no matter no condition. So, you know, like I could just see this going really, you know, really cool that you can, you know, like, I don't know, to get an extra use out of Gandalf, let's say. You know, somebody else brings Gandalf in across the table, and you know he's already drawn you 3 cards, and then you quest with him, and then you can ready him, and then he can be your defender, or he can, you know, like whatever it is that you need. You know, like there's just a lot of goodness in this. I mean, the downside is that, you know, in single player, solo, and in you know, it costs 5. Yeah, it's not as strong. But if you're running a, you know, we've talked about a Gondor swarm. If you're running a swarm deck, there's definitely times if you have 10 allies out on the board and you can ready them all for 5, you know, plus any heroes, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, next time your team getting ready, preparing to play multiplayer, just consider tossing this in. 2 copies is pretty good. Those effects can be really, really strong. And they're just it's just a blast when it hits the table. It's just one of those cards you're like, awesome. Like you're so happy whoever. Right. And yeah, a lot of times too, if players have a way to, if I have ways to pass resources to players, or they have ways to acquire them from me, like Leadership Denethor, for example, I will donate and help it out, because that effect is just going to help the entire table. If I can help someone pay the resources for it, like, sure.
Yeah. Well, what about the artwork on this guy? One of the things that I will say is that, you know, the core set artwork is kind of, you know, is always, it's not as
a little
well developed as maybe, you know, but I mean, I think that this is a pretty, you know, what do I want to say? I don't know. I like the artwork. I'm not sure what it's representing. I mean, the orcs are coming out down the road, and then they're hiding behind, you know, within a foot of the orcs coming down the passage. Mm-hmm. So, like, I don't know exactly where that was in the, you know, they're not wearing orc disguises in Mordor, or, you know, there doesn't seem to be the stare of Cirith Ungol there, but I don't know, like,
could it be the point where they're near the Black Gate, where they've just left Athelion?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's tough to say for sure, but
that's taking it on the premise that this is 2 hobbits.
Yeah.
Being Frodo and Sam.
It doesn't really look like them, but I do assume that, Grant. I think you're right, you know, because they put Frodo's quote on there. You know, the quote doesn't always match. I think that's who this is depicting, though. I think your hunch is right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But the artwork is good. You know, although I'm not sure that, you know, I don't think we want to ready all those orcs that are coming out. I think it would be good if there was like an army of orcs and then an army of elves, or an army at Rohan, you know, like that, you know, so that everybody can come out and do this. I don't know.
It should have been Helm's Deep.
Helm's Deep, or the Battle of Pelennor Field, or I don't know. Even Numinos. I don't know. It just seems so, I don't know. I like the art. The art is good, but I feel like it doesn't match up with what the card is saying. Does that make sense?
Well, it could be them stealing their resolve to go into the, basically.
It's Grim Resolve, not stealing resolve. Stop it.
But yeah, I get what he means there. I think that's the depiction there. But so it's okay. Yeah, the effect is better than the artwork. We'll put it that.
Ted's like, let's move on to a ring rating here.
Yeah, like I said, it's expensive but strong. There are other effects that Grant mentioned to compare it to, like Lure of Moria, but you know, this isn't specific. There's it's another one too in the leadership sphere that readies all allies in play. If you have
Men of the West. No, it's not on the list.
No.
Hulk arms.
Strength of arms.
Strength of arms.
So,
Yeah. So there's a lot of other effects like that, and this is by far the most unrestrictive and broad,
and
but the most powerful. So I'd say it's in line with all of those, and yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Okay, well, here we go. So as people may know, or maybe not know, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rank a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 ring is the one card in the card pool to rule them all, and 10 rings is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made. So let's see here. Ted, do you want to lead us off?
Sure, I will. Since you asked, I'm gonna give Grim Resolve a 4 because it's quite strong and in decks that I know even in 2-player games I'll play it if I have bountiful resources. If I'm playing generally 2 leadership heroes at least, and then I have a ways to generate the resources and pay for it. The cost is very justified.
Okay, Grant, what do you think?
I'll agree with everything Ted said, but I'm going to give it a 5 because and if I've got access to other readying, I'll probably take that over this because it's so expensive. But there are times where it's just like I'll sneak a slide copy into my deck just for that one-off moment where I can go, you know what, everybody, just ready everybody.
A sly copy. That's what we need. We need a deck called the Sly Copy. That could be the White Council deck. There's a sly one copy of everything. It's a sly copy deck. Anyways, for me, again, when I rate cards, I think about how much cards inspire me. Playing solo, this card I don't sneak it into a lot of decks, but this card is so powerful when I play it at the con. So it's hard to ignore how important this card is when you're playing, at a convention, or you're playing multiplayer in your game store or at home, whatever it is, So I'm still gonna give this card a 6 because it just, for the style that I'm playing and the mode that I'm playing, I don't use it that much, and it doesn't really get me, but it is super good, and I think it's always been a good card through the card pool. It hasn't lost favor and then gained favor. You're like, oh, this card's unplayable. I'm like, oh, now it can do anything. I think that this card has always been good. It just hasn't ever really fit into the way that I build deck. I'm not building my Grim Resolve deck and trying to recycle this with Tome of Atanatar. Anyways, the tome that allows you to recur events. So that's me. So, anyways, everybody, join us again next week as we talk about more cards in the game. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube, and there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.